Hello, and welcome to episode 149 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today on the podcast, we're continuing our series in the Mindset Shift series. It'll be episode number 2, and what we're talking about today is moving from trying to impress your client during the first consultation and instead trying to lead them through a conversation. So we're going to demystify how that first client meeting goes and give you power to show up as the expert and shifting your mindset so you're moving from trying to impress to being the expert. So we will get into that in just a little bit, but I want to remind you that I have an online mentorship platform called My Design Mentor, if you haven't heard about it. It's for wherever you're at in your journey to becoming an interior designer, whether you're just thinking about it and have lots of questions, or if you've already started and you're looking to maybe start your business or get your first clients, I'm there to help you along the way. So information for that is in the show notes. Also, check out the notes because we have lots of great free downloads for you, a quiz you can take, and a lot of great fun stuff. So check that out, and let's get into the episode. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Okay, let's talk about that first consultation, that first in-person impression you have with your clients. It can either establish your authority or maybe it's accidentally undermining it. It's not just a meet and greet. This is your chance to take the lead and set the tone for the entire project. Last week, we talked about building a business that supports your life, and this starts with how you show up from day one. And so that begins with your first consultation. So let's get into this mindset shift. New designers often feel like they have to prove themselves. They might over-explain or, worst of all, over-deliver and not charge for all that they're offering. A lot of times, and this is less the case nowadays, but designers would do a free consultation. They all show up on site and the client is expecting them to give them ideas for free. And that is your creativity, your ideas is so valuable. You can't just give that away for free, right? So if you are willing to give it away for free, then that means maybe you're subtly sending messages to the client that you don't value what you are offering. But if you are charging for your consultation, then you can feel free to give them as much advice and opinions as you have because you are starting the new project and you want to start it off right with an air of authority because that's what you are. You're an expert and you're coming into this with fresh eyes and creative genius, and you're going to transform their lives. And that's what clients are looking for. They're looking for a guide to help them through. You're the Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke Skywalker. You're not a peer or the best friend. Okay? You're not like gonna be all chummy with them most of the time, but that's not why you're there. You're there to be the expert. Now, you do intend to build a long-term relationship because a lot of the clients I have will be repeat clients and they'll come back years later when they are ready for the next phase or it's been 15 years and they need to now update their bathroom again. There's nothing wrong with having a long-term relationship and then you might get to know that person really well, but you're really not there to be their best friend because you're charging them, right? And even if you're working for your best friend, you should still be charging that person. So let's talk about how your confidence can equal clarity. When you take the lead in the consultation, you can actually put the client at ease. a lot of times, even if you've talked to them through the discovery call about what to expect at the consultation, a lot of clients, when I show up, they're a little bit nervous. They'll say, sorry for all the mess. My house doesn't look great, or, that. And I'm always like, well, that's the whole point why I'm here. They're like, don't judge me because I have mess, whatever, kids, et cetera, et cetera. So I have to put them at ease, first of all, for that. And then they'll say, like, I have never done this before. I've never worked with a designer before. And what I feel puts the client at ease very quickly is I tell them that, like, well, why don't we walk through the house? You tell me your pain points, what you love about your house and what you don't like and what's not working for you. And basically why you've called me to be here. And so that allows them to start to walk through a very familiar place and talk about things they're very familiar with and very comfortable. So it sets them at ease. And meanwhile, I'm listening. And I've already, though, by putting that down, I've already guided them into how we're running this process. And it's just a really great way to start that conversation with your client. So you're not there to walk in and say, oh, wow, this mirror has to go. It's obvious that it doesn't fit this room, when maybe that was their grandmother's mirror and that's the one thing in the room that has to stay. And so if you've already insulted it, that's not a great way to start out, right? So your job is to listen, but also to be the guide. And so they might ask questions along the way as you're walking through, and you might not have a solution for that, but you might be able to tell them, like, yeah, that's obviously a pain point for you, and we're going to work on that and workshop a solution for you. Just oozing with confidence all the way through. So let's talk a little more about that confidence. So you're going to start with your professional but friendly tone. So, like, here's what to expect for today. And you'll share the process. So you're going to say you're going to walk through the house, and then we'll sit down and kind of talk about how we typically work, and then the budget and costs for everything. And so you're setting a structure. And this is a process that's going to be easy for you to say at that consultation, because this is a process that you are going to do every single consultation. Doesn't matter what it is, if it's a whole house remodel, if it's a whole house furnishing, if it's a one-room furnishing, if you're just there for a color consultation, you will take the client through the same process every time. You're going to feel so confident because of that, because it's just a habit. And it builds trust and it creates structure around that consultation. And everybody loves it when they can relax into something when structure has been put in place. So you can ask strong, open-ended questions like, what's working? What isn't? How do you want to feel in this space? What's your timeline and level of urgency? And then you reiterate back to them what you've heard. You can say, what I'm hearing is that there's not enough seating in this room when you entertain. And they can then clarify, or you can say, what I'm hearing is that you really don't love warm colors. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I hate orange and blue is my favorite, etc. So then after you've done your walkthrough, you can set the expectations by going through your process of a typical project, talk about timelines that would be expected for this type of a project. You can talk about your fees, what you typically charge for this type of project, what they can expect. And so if you're doing like how I do hourly and bill them monthly, and I tell them, it's really good. I've heard recently, like, talk about money quickly and often. So bring it up quickly in the conversation. So definitely talk about their budget and everything at that first consultation, and then let them know that you'll be in communication with them throughout the project. One of my policies is to email the client every Friday and let them know what's going on with the project. So just assure them that they won't need to keep checking in with you, that you'll keep them updated on anything that is going on in the project. And what you might want to do, and here's a great tip, is to have a branded consultation guide or outline to help you stay on track while you're at the consultation, but also it's something that you could leave with them. Maybe it's something like a welcome guide that goes over the process that you have explained to them. and talks about typical timelines and budgets and everything like that, and what it's like to work with your company. So what are some things that you might want to avoid, or maybe common pitfalls for a designer at this consultation? Well, you don't want to over-explain your pricing or process. So I said that you want to talk about money quickly and then often, but in an assuring way, not in an apologetic way. So maybe you're going to tell them that for redesigning this room, it's going to be $20,000. Oftentimes, after you give them a number, you need to be quiet about it and not keep explaining like, well, it's because it takes me this amount of time and I've been in school for this long, and so I think I deserve to blah, blah, blah. You don't have to make those qualifications to the client. Tell them the number and then be quiet about it or move on to the next part of the process. So don't over-explain your pricing and don't over-explain the process so much that they get lost in the weeds. And all of that detail is not necessary at that initial consultation unless they ask for it, but it's unlikely. You also don't want to fall into people-pleasing at this consultation, so don't say yes to unrealistic requests, something that's outside of your expertise. You can tell them that you might think about adding that on as a phase, but that you haven't approached that before in your career, and this would be a new venture, so you need time to consider how to add that request onto what they're asking for. So don't feel like you immediately have to say yes if they said, I want to do the outside backyard as well. Can you do that for me? Well, maybe you've never done landscape design. Maybe you know nothing about plants, and you probably shouldn't be doing that anyway. You can tell them that, yes, I can do the furnishings for outside. I haven't done an outside kitchen before, so maybe let's partner with a landscape designer to design this together. So you don't have to say yes to every request that they have at the consultation, so that don't do that. We've talked about not working for free. Don't give away everything until they've hired you. So you're not going to be doing any drawings for them or anything like that until they actually have signed the contract. And then don't ask open-ended questions, I guess, or weak-styled questions for the client. Leaves them in too much of a gray area instead of giving clarity. So don't say something like, what kind of design style do you like? Instead say, here's 5 different styles. Do you find one that you're drawn to more than the other? Because they might not know what design style they like. They don't know the word to put to it. It's a discovery process that you do together, and you're going to guide them through that instead of expecting them to have those types of answers where it really falls in line with your expertise. So the consultation isn't a project, it's a gateway to the project. So keep that in mind. And then how do we position ourselves as the authority or the expert in a subtle way? So your language matters. Instead of, I think, say, based on my experience, it's really great to say experience has shown me that this is the best way to do it, or based on my experience, a typical bathroom remodel is $50,000. You can't do it for $5,000. Instead of saying, I think that your budget is not big enough. Because you want to keep hinting to them that you have experience, and even if you are agreeing that you have learned from gleaning from other people, from other colleagues, you might have heard someone say that the bathroom costs $50,000 starting in your area. Someone says they want to do it for $5,000. You can say, based on my knowledge about this, I don't think that your budget would be sufficient. There are ways to frame it. It'll take practice. Maybe you could practice on a friend or a family member, but you can also use a collaborative phrase to build confidence. Say something like, what I recommend for your goals is, because you can always give, that's why you're there, to give your opinion and your recommendation. So you can always turn it around to like, your recommendation is something that's going to suit what their goal is for that project. Bring your energy as the leader in the conversation. Be warm but clear. Clarity is key for the consultation. You want them to have confidence through that clarity. And then let them see you as the solution to their overwhelm. Oftentimes at a consultation, the client will say, well, I went to 5 different tile stores. I just couldn't decide anything. I was overwhelmed. And so that's why I decided to call you. Well, that's great. So you can tell them that, like, I deal with tile all the time. So it's, I'm just going to show you a few of the best options. And then you don't have to even think about the other tile that's in the room. So that's another way to show them that you are the guide, you are the expert. So how are you feeling about that initial consultation? Just in summary, I want you to review how you flow with a consultation. Make sure you're driving it, even if you're listening most of the time, that you're still asking them and prompting them to the next step in that process of the consultation. Is there any part that's making you feel unsure about the consultation? Then maybe it's time to regroup, maybe ask a friend, maybe get in My Design Mentor. We can workshop your consultations and see how you can maybe you're not converting from your initial consultation into the project. So we can talk about how to tweak your consultation to make sure that the clients are ready to sign and ready to go and excited about hiring you as their designer. As we're in this Mindset Shift series, I want you to choose one. Think about maybe a new question to ask yourself or a phrase that you need to stop saying to yourself, or a way to better set expectations for your clients. Think of a new question to ask your client, maybe a better phrase of that question, and better way to prompt the client for better responses. Or maybe you can get a phrase that you need to, there's a phrase that you need to stop saying. Oftentimes it's the word just in front of whatever you're going to describe yourself as. But yeah, there's many phrases that we might put ourselves down and maybe counteract the fact that we are there as the expert and you're just putting yourself down and not trusting in your own value. And then maybe there's a way to better set expectations for your clients going into that consultation so they can convert. So a lot of things to think about that initial consultation. It's a really important step in the process. If this goes well, if your consultation goes well, then that is a great indicator for the rest of the project. So let's get this one aligned and have you thinking positively and correctly for this mindset. So hopefully you found that helpful to create a mindset shift, and I hope you are enjoying this series. If this episode gave you some new ideas for how to confidently lead your consultations, share it with another designer or tag me with your favorite takeaway from the episode. Don't miss the next episode where we talk about becoming a CEO of your business and not just the creative. So that will be in episode 151. Next week, we're going to have a great interview. So until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.